Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast. Uh, I was so high up there, I forgot what I was saying.
Good
We're
job.
here to give you the latest movies, TV, music, and video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us on the Media Boat Podcast this week. One of us at least knows what they're saying. It's June the 26th, 2025. This is episode 493, actually. I'm going to change it here.
Yes, happy Stitch Day to all.
What?
Stitch. Experiment 626?
It's 493.
No, today.
Oh, the day, June 26th. Oh, okay. I get it now. I get it. No, we're not going to talk about Stitch today, but we are going to talk about other stuff. And we always start with music, and we always start the podcast with
The weekend box office.
no, wrong one.
Okay. All right. We're going to start the music section. Start the music section with the Billboard. Start the Billboard with the Hot 100. Hottest song in the land is, once again, Ordinary by Alex Warren. Coming in at 2, Man Child by Sabrina Carpenter. At 3, What I Want is for This to Not Be Morgan Wallen, featuring Tate McRae. But at 4, Just in Case You Didn't Think I Had It Out for Morgan Wallen. And number 5, Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA.
Yep, same top five this week, except for one and two swapped. Manchild is at number two after debuting at number one last week.
Yep. As for your albums chart, your Billboard 200, at number 1 is The Problem Himself, Morgan Wallen. Playing it 2, Golden Hour. Not that Golden
Oh,
Hour.
no.
This is Golden Hour Part 3 EP. Not by who you're thinking, though. This is ATs. Coming in at 3 is Dopamine by Lil Tecca. At 4, SOS by SZA. And rounding out your top 5 in the middle of a shit sandwich. One Thing at a Time by Morgan Wallen. If you like any of those albums, or you'd like to help get Morgan Wallen out of the top 5 here, we have new releases. Starting with Metal Fourth by Baby Metal. The Shadow of the Guest by Blonde Redhead. Tracks 2, The Lost Albums by the boss himself, Bruce Springsteen. We also have Spanish Moss by Swole Swindell. Cole Swindell. Oh, there's Different Talking by Frankie Cosmos. The Manticore Tapes by Motorhead. Yes, that Motorhead. And lastly, album everyone's been waiting for. I'm sure we'll both be listening to this next week. Virgin by Lord.
I gotta say, I am struggling to be excited about this record. As much as I love melodrama, I did not like Solar Power, and all of the singles so far for this record have done exactly nothing for me. I am worried that I'm not going to like this.
Are you not sucked into the hype that this is return for Lord, as she has been promoting?
I mean, hype is one thing, but the actual songs, I'm hoping to like them, and I just haven't so far. She's 0 for 3 right now for me, and I'm just like, I hope the rest of the record is good.
We will
It,
check that out
yeah,
next week.
it could just be me, honestly.
Sometimes it's just for you, and sometimes it's just not for you.
Right, exactly.
All right, let's get into the music news where we go all the way up to Spotify, our favorite Capitol Hill to die on. Well, Senators Marsha Blackburn and Ben Ray Lujan bitterly criticized Spotify's music audiobooks bundling plan, which lowers royalties to songwriters and music publishers by hundreds of millions of dollars every year. This was in a letter released Friday asking the FTC to investigate the streaming giant. In the letter, the senators say that the plan launched last year, which substantially lowers royalty payments to songwriters and publishers by automatically shifting users to a plan that bundles music with the platform's much less popular audiobook option, converts, quote, all of its premium music subscribers into different and ultimately higher priced bundled subscriptions without their knowledge or consent. The bundle also made the company eligible for a lower mechanical royalty rate in the United States. These actions harm consumers, the senators added, saying, quote, and could deeply damage the marketplace and the music royalty system. Bundled premium plans are apparently aimed at increasing Spotify's profits while lowering royalty payments to the creative community. End quote.
Yeah, I mean, we're a broken record on this podcast, but ultimately, yeah, Spotify's always been in it for their profit. They're not in it to make money for musicians. They never were. And yeah, this is just further proof. The senators have a point here. There is something I think legitimately that the FTC could look into. I mean, the FTC doesn't even like when, you're on retail sites and there's a check mark automatically checked. This is the equivalent of a check mark being already checked for Spotify, right? Like they're not telling you that they're moving you to this other tier. And you could be supporting something that you don't want to support, or you could be just getting content that you don't care about, like audiobooks on Spotify. There was a reason why they were treated separately originally. That's not usually the same. Like most people are just there for the music. But of course, they want to push their new stuff. Like they did it with podcasts and now they're doing it with audiobooks. Yeah, it's pretty gross. And I hope they get some sort of attention for this because they just keep doing stuff like this that just only lines their pockets and doesn't actually improve anyone's experience with Spotify, whether they're a listener or an artist.
Right. But this is where we have to remind everyone Spotify, not a US company.
Right.
But then again, TikTok was also not a US company,
Exactly.
and they
Exactly.
passed legislation banning that one specific app. So there is some precedent to ban an app not created in the US per the language of that original. Oh, was it an act that passed? Or just a law that passed? Or is it executive order? I forget which ones were allowed now.
I have no clue. Don't ask me.
I try not to, but here you are, being able to ask questions. All right. Well, we'll see what comes of this, if anything. I mean, we have seen when senators do get in front of other big companies around the music industry, like Ticketmaster, they too and can have in the past made changes that affect the public for the benefit. We'll see if this is one of those changes. But then again, as we say here on the Mio podcast, it's a business. And as you mentioned, they're in it for profit.
Yeah.
So if there's a way to make a profit, yes, they're going to try and make it before being sheepish, like, oh, sorry, we did that. We'll pay our $50 million fine and keep the $100 million in profit that we made.
Yeah, it's just depressing. That's all. It's just really, really depressing.
Oh, we'll call it what it is, the unofficial cost of doing business.
Sure.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, anyways, what we would love to do on here is say, you know what? I quit. But we can't do that because that'd be unfair to you listening to us. But luckily for us, or maybe unluckily for us, HAIM came out here and said, I quit.
Yeah, it's the name of their new record. This is their first record in 5 years following Women in Music Part 3. They're Grammy nominated, but not winning, unfortunately. Last album. And it's very similar in the way that it sounds. It is taking pretty much part two, or part four, if you will, of that kind of approach, except leaning a little bit more towards the classic rock vibes that were hinted at in some of the songs in the last record. This is very much a record that seems to be pulling a lot from 60s and 70s rock bands, a lot of Rolling Stones DNA in here. There's a even beyond that, there's some 80s cues too. There's like a U2 sample in there somewhere. It's like a very interesting sounding record that really leans into what this band does best, which is kind of emulate these classic male centric kind of sounds, but with a female twist. They're really good at speaking to the experience of being a woman in their 20s or 30s. And like they continue with that here. The I quit in the name doesn't necessarily refer to quitting a job. It actually seems to be referring to quitting a relationship or other things in their life. There's a lot of songs about relationships here. There's a lot of songs about like not necessarily giving up on something, but moving past things. Finishing up one thing to start a new opportunity. Um, while I don't think it's as consistent as Women in Music, I do think it's very good. I listened to this a couple of times in a row, just to kind of feel it out. I think there are some really excellent songs on here. They're still working with producer Rostam, who some people might remember as a former member of Vampire Weekend. He also, this is my opportunity this week to mention that it is the 10th anniversary this week of Carly Rae Jepsen's Emotion. And Rostam produced Warm Blood, one of the best songs on Emotion. So there you go. But yeah, and it's definitely got a lot of his kind of production choices in it, which I always really appreciate. A lot of vocal modulation, a lot of interesting kind of musical choices. I think it's really good. I don't know if I like it, like I said, as much as the last record. But if you liked that record, if you like Haim, this is a really good Haim record, and they just continue to knock it out of the park. They're a really great band. Although I do want to say there's a little bit more poppiness coming, and I wonder how much of this is from hanging out with Taylor Swift. Makes you think. Makes you think.
I did get halfway through this album. I
Mm.
listened to part of it. And I was going to text you a joke saying like, "Whoa, did you know that Haim is actually good?" Because I like the
Yeah,
that first like four songs on that album.
I've known that for a while, and I've tried to tell you, but hey,
Yeah,
you didn't have
I
to
mean, I
listen to
didn't go
me.
back and finish the album, but what I
Uh,
did hear, I actually liked, and
yeah,
made me think like, hey, maybe I should listen to more Haim.
I recommend this one and the last record. Yeah, you should finish this up, see where it goes. It goes some places. All right.
I'll do that. But yeah, if you're looking for new music in your life, give Haim a shot
Check it out.
because
Check
I
it out.
assume they'll be back, even though, like I said, they quit.
Yeah. As far as I know, aren't done after this, but
All
who
right.
could say?
Well, we're not done because we have lore to talk about next week.
Yes, I guess so.
All right, let's get into our next topic here, which is video games. And we start video games with new releases, including Tamagotchi Plaza for the Switch and Switch 2, Front Mission 3 Remake for the Switch, Persona 5, the Phantom X for PC.
This is also on mobile, but I don't usually mention that. But in this case, it's a big franchise. If you like those free-to-play mobile games, then like Persona 5, maybe check this out.
There's also System Shock 2, 25th anniversary remaster, of course, for the PC. Mecha Break for the PC and Xbox Series X. And lastly, Kojima on the Beach for your PS5.
Yes, that's Death Stranding 2, on the beach. That is your big release this week. The sequel, of course, to Death Stranding. I understand that it's really weird and just like the first one, if that's what you want. So there you go.
Yeah, just like snow on the beach. Weird,
Yeah,
but fucking
fucking
beautiful.
beautiful. Exactly.
Yes. All right. Let's get to video games where we got a crossover with the streaming section with Netflix. That's right.
Yes.
If you're unaware, Netflix does have games available on either the desktop app or mobile app. Sorry, not for TVs yet. Well, Netflix has confirmed that it will be delisting more than 20 of its streaming titles. I'm sorry, its mobile games next month. These titles set to be removed from the service include Hades, Braid, the Anniversary Edition, and everyone's favorite Monument Valley Trilogy. As initially spotted by Engadget, the majority of the games will be removed on July 14th, but the dates do vary. Hades, for example, will be delisted in a couple days on July 1st. The majority of the mobile games offered through Netflix are exclusive to the service, meaning most of the games set to be removed aren't available on iOS, App Store, or Google Play in any non Netflix form.
So yeah, our one of our dragons that we always battle here on the Media Boat podcast is the idea of digital things that just go away someday and you can never get them back.
Mhm.
Obviously, that's bad. If Netflix gets rid of these games, at least do the thing that Adult Swim did a year ago, where they were like, "Yeah, the creators can have these game rights back." Like at least do that, right? Because then they can put them back up on like one of the actual mobile storefronts and still make money from the game that they made outside of that Netflix deal. The other interesting kind of wrinkle to the story is what's Netflix doing? Are they getting out of games? Are they trying to save money? Are they doing like a rotation where they're going to replace this with a bunch of other games? Or is this them slowly sneaking out of this idea? I have no idea.
It'll be
It's
interesting
yeah.
because the three games listed here, Hades, Braid, and Monument Valley Trilogy, well, I guess six or five, because counting, are licensed games. They're made by
Yeah.
other creators on other platforms. So it would
Yeah.
make sense that they don't want to continue those licenses, continue to pay for them, and then more or less not being used on their platform. So it makes sense to continue paying for those licenses.
Maybe.
However, other mobile games I have seen on the Netflix app are more tie-in games to other Netflix properties,
Hmm.
like that Kaleidoscope show that was there 2 years ago, like uh, Love is Blind on there, like the Squid Game mobile app. Those are all based on Netflix properties as part of the Netflix games. So there could be a bigger push to have more tie-in Netflix franchises being pushed to the forefront rather than some of these outsourced games, which, if you remember, is exactly what they did with their movies and TV content, where
Yeah.
originally Netflix would license out to have movies and TV content on their streaming platform before they created their own internal content, and now Netflix is mostly Netflix original series.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to lend some evidence in your favor on this theory, just a few weeks ago, they made their first purchase of a game studio. So they do technically have a studio under their belt now if they wanted to have games made in-house. Whether they continue to buy studios is still up in the air. They seem to suggest that that was not part of their long-term plan, that that was kind of a one-off decision, but time will tell. We'll find out what they plan on doing with this platform. But yeah, for now though, it means that if you use this heavily and you played a lot of these big games, you're going to be out of luck and you're going to have to find another way to play them.
Yes, your saved states may no longer be
I
savable.
guess not.
All right. Well, we'll talk about Netflix in a bit here, but first, we need to trip around the world, the Mario Kart world, as you've been
Yes.
playing more on, you guessed it, the Nintendo Switch 2.
Yeah, I talked about it a little bit already last week, but since then I've played a whole lot more of it, and so I wanted to kind of follow up with some of the modes and stuff that I didn't talk about last week. So I did finally jump into the knockout mode, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that there's an alternative to just the traditional Mario Kart races in there. It's a lot of fun. I recommend playing it with friends though, because the single player experience is pretty rough. I mentioned kind of like a difficulty, the difficulty of the game overall being upped when I talked about it last week.
Hmm.
Well, this is especially um, problematic in the knockout mode because the way that it works is basically you keep qualifying Fortnite style by surviving eliminations, ultimately leading to when you're in the top after you pass the top four one. It's basically the last one is, hey, just get first. And unlike the Grand Prix, it's not just like, oh, well, you place second. You get like you get a clear basically because you get a silver medal. Not the case in knockout mode. It's first or nothing. And on 150cc, they will try to take you down. Like the computer players will absolutely wreck your shit to get ahead of you in that before that last checkpoint. So I finished the first one and maybe the second one, and the third and fourth, I cannot get first place. I have played that third one probably 8 times now, and I just can't win it. I can't win it. I am first every single checkpoint up until the very last one, and I can't get first because in that last stretch, they always overtake me.
You sound like the Connor McDavid of Mario Kart racing,
A little bit.
where you
It's a
just
little
can't get over that
frustrating.
hump.
Yeah. So it's like knockout mode. I like it conceptually, but something is just keeping me from being like 100% on board. And I do think that, yeah, the difficulty is a problem, especially when you have like basically sudden death as your situation at the end there. But like I said, if you have a bunch of friends, play with friends because it's probably a lot more enjoyable with just a chat room, game chat room of 12 people just instead of actual computer players. Um, so yeah,
What if this upping of the difficulty is a way for people for them to push people towards online, towards more local play or
it
online play
might.
with friends?
It
Like,
might
hey,
be.
you might be having true difficulty here, but take that difficulty to your friends.
Yeah. The other thing I did was I played a lot more of the open world mode, which yeah, still fun. I unlocked a bunch more outfits. I did a bunch more challenges. I did feel myself getting a little less interested once I got the costumes I wanted.
Right.
So your mileage will vary, no pun intended. This is a racing game. Depending on how much completion you actually care about. If you're a completionist, like someone I know on this podcast, you might really like be into this because there's a lot to pick up, there's a lot to unlock, there's a lot to do. But if you're like, look at the list, if you like Google a list and look at what you want, and you only really want like five of those things, like I did, then you're gonna finish that content pretty quick, unless you have some sort of other reason you want to play more of it. I do think it's fun. I do like how it controls. I do like how it looks, and I do overall think this is a very good game. But yeah, I will say my interest in playing a whole lot of it has ticked down a few notches from last week because I feel like for now I've gotten what I want from it. But because it's Mario Kart, this is a game I'm going to keep coming back to probably throughout the entire life cycle of the device.
Well, with the terms of like the unlocking outfit, it sounds a lot like Lego Star Wars, or like
Mm.
any of the Lego games where you want to go after the characters you want to play as, and then everyone else is kind of like cleanup, where you're like, okay, I'll do this mission because it gives me this character, and I needed to unlock it and finish everything. But at other times, like I need to do this because I want to play as the character that it unlocks. So it
Hmm.
sounds a lot like that.
Yeah,
Second, sounds like you're getting burnt out,
a little bit.
little pun intended.
Heh,
But maybe that's part of Nintendo's strategy because in a couple of weeks, the new Donkey Kong game releases, Banananza,
Bonanza.
and maybe that could be the way of keeping people more interested in the Switch 2 with
Yeah.
the next franchise. And not just, and that's why they didn't just release it as a day one.
Yeah, I imagine that they're going to keep this going, add things to it constantly. It
Mhm.
is very telling that the next big game is Donkey Kong. And guess who only has one costume each? Donkey Kong and Pauline. This looks like there's a lot of opportunity there, huh? So yeah, you're probably right. This is probably they're going to treat this like kind of a live service kind of thing, which would be nice. I
To be
think that'll
fair, they
work.
did that with Mario 8 Deluxe as well, where
Right.
they kept adding courses from the back catalog. They kept adding characters.
Yeah.
So it's
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it being treated like that because I will absolutely enjoy more content to jump into later. But yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty much all I've been doing on the Switch 2. I guess I'll briefly mention the GameCube games on there because that's new. The GameCube platform is officially is exclusively for the higher tier of the Nintendo Online subscription. So if you already had that for the Nintendo 64 and Game Boy Advance games, you'll automatically get GameCube games with the Switch 2. It's not compatible with Switch 1. There are only three of them right now. It's just Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, F-Zero GX, and Soul Calibur 2. Games that I spent a lot of time with back in the day.
Mhm.
It was cool to jump back into Soul Calibur 2 after a long time. This is the version with Link in it, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it was kind of nostalgic, but otherwise, not a whole lot to mess around with on the Switch 2 at the moment. So I have that thing, and it is waiting and ready for the next big release.
All right. I guess here we'll give a little update. PlayStation Plus Essentials, because the first is on a Tuesday. That means the 1st of July, you get new games in your essential catalog.
Yep.
Be sure to check those out. I think there's one game in there that I am checking out, but I forget which one it is. If you want to pull that up, because while we here on the Media Boat podcast like talking about video games, we
Yeah.
can't cover all video games. So it is my great joy and understanding that we probably aren't going to be talking about Death Stranding 2,
No.
on the beach here, even though it will probably be everywhere. Everyone's going to gush over how good it looks. Everyone's going to be saying, oh, this is game of the year. Sure, but not here. No Kojima landing on this beach.
Yeah. Um, I just Googled it, and people who missed this on other platforms might be happy to know that one of the July monthly games, the ones that you get in any of the package, is Diablo 4. So if you missed
Yes,
that, you'll be able to jump into that. That's pretty cool.
I think that's the one I was thinking of
hmm
because you
hmm
had a lot of fun with that.
I did. That is, but just an FYI, as I've been harping on this for a handful of months now, that is a Microsoft Game Studios title technically because they do
Yes.
own Blizzards now. So keep that in mind. Anyways, but yeah, that's out. All right.
All right.
That's it for video
Well,
games.
that's it for video games. So let's go right into television, where we start
hmm
over at the sports corner. And we're going to go over to the world of soccer. I know we rarely stop in here, but we have some exciting news because it's about one of the best soccer players in the world. No, not that one, the other one, Ronaldo, because he has agreed to a 2-year term extension with Al Nassr Football Club in Saudi Arabia. Yes, I know. But they are willing, able to pay him $185 million annually. So, according to this report, this means that it would equate to roughly 15 million euros per month, or 3.8 million per week, or just for existing for 24 hours, $550,000 per day. Where are they getting this money again?
Who can say? I have no idea.
I think we can say, but we can't technically say. Or maybe we can say, or not say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go talk about actual football. I'm sorry, American football. As training camps are right around the corner. Yes, you mentioned July is coming on Tuesday. Well, The training camps for the two teams that will be playing in the Hall of Fame game have their dates scheduled for when veterans are to report for training camp. The LA, sorry, they're not LA, the Costa Mesa Chargers, where the facility is located, will have their veterans report on July 16th, whereas the Detroit Lions will be reporting on July 19th. Those two teams will then meet in the first official, unofficial Hall of Fame uh, game of the season. All
Okay.
right. Something to look forward to because
Yeah.
this means that we are inching ever so closely to start regular football season and Hard Knocks coming soon. Yes, knock hard on that window. All right. Uh, let's get over into baseball, where,
Yes.
speaking of July, we got draft day coming up 7/13, 2 weeks away. I believe by the time we get there to 7/13, well, that's a Sunday. So no, we will have to wait till like the 17th to talk about it, or maybe not. We'll see. But yeah, draft day is quickly approaching. There were, as we talked about last week, some players went to the Phoenix Desert to showcase their skills. Others went to the College World Series to showcase their skills, where
Indeed.
LSU topped Coastal Carolina in the Men's College World Series, 2 straight games. No need for a third game tiebreaker. Congratulations to the Tigers for winning 2 national championships in the past 3 years.
Good job.
Good job to you. Over in professional baseball land, however, we've got some staff updates. And we've got teams who have reached 50 wins in the season already. None other than the LA Dodgers, of course, and none other than the Detroit Tigers, of
Yep.
course.
Sure.
Yeah, everyone picked the Detroit Tigers to hit 50 wins first, right?
I
Right?
mean, I
Right?
mean, I believed in them last year. They didn't quite make it, and so I'm kind of happy that this year they are like blowing everybody away with just how good they are. I'm so happy for them.
Well, speaking of blowing people away, we have some run differential totals to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's not the Dodgers or the Tigers. No, your top two teams in run differential are the New York Yankees with plus 110 runs and the Chicago Cubs with plus 97 runs.
Yeah. Torpedo
But
bats.
yeah, torpedo bats are making big hits. However, for every plus 100, there is also a negative inverse correlation with that, or
Yes.
rather, more inverse correlation, as at the opposite end, the Athletics are minus 131 run differentials.
Yeah, it's
But they're
rough.
not the worst.
No, there's
Oh
a rougher
no.
one.
The Colorado Rockies are minus 211 run differential.
Mhm.
So if you are a betting man, and I know you're out there because they're everywhere now,
They're everywhere.
if you're gonna pick a game, pick the Colorado Rockies to lose,
Yeah, generally speaking.
generally speaking.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
and the
it's
Chicago White Sox, but
yeah, in fact, I was going to bring them up because I was going to say it is wild. Like it feels a little whiplash going from last season where we were talking about how the Chicago White Sox had a historically bad season, only to now realize we're watching an even more historically bad season, a historically worse season, the worst season probably any team has ever had. And we're watching it slowly unfold.
well, at least the Rockies have a home in Colorado,
That's
whereas the
true.
Athletics don't really have a home in Sacramento. In fact, this
Yeah,
past week they technically broke ground in Las Vegas.
yes,
I say
technically.
technically because if you saw that video of them breaking ground, one, they were not outside. Two, it wasn't the actual ground, it was a ceremonial ground.
Yeah.
And three, they were in a big, huge white tent, all pressed and air conditioned. They don't want to be out in the Vegas heat breaking ground, where the athletics will be out in the Vegas heat playing baseball games.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, enough. Oh, sorry. Not enough about baseball. We gotta talk about their league leaders, their individual
Yes.
stats. Leading the league in home runs and RBIs, Cal Raleigh over in
Big dumper.
Seattle. Yep, up in Seattle, those damn Mariners. But, you got to have your reigning league MVP in here somewhere. And that's where Aaron Judge comes in with his 361 batting average with, 108 hits.
Yeah, if it wasn't for a recent slump, Aaron Judge would still have this. It's just for some reason, him and also the Yankees as a team hit a huge skid over the last couple weeks, and it's really unclear what happened to Judge's swing. Meanwhile, yeah, big dumper over there in Seattle has just been dumping them. The most dumps I've ever seen. He's already at 32 dumps, and he has a whole half a season left to dump more. So, yeah, this will be a first conversation in a couple years, I think, where the AL MVP race is going to get more interesting. With Cal Raleigh just getting better and better.
I mean, Aaron Judge isn't that far off in the home run race
No,
with
he's not.
28 himself.
Right. But if he still, like, if he keeps kind of skidding into these slower periods, it's going to be harder to argue come October. But we'll see.
Right, but there's currently no election going on in New York. That ended on Tuesday.
Yeah, rank judge.
Yeah, so he can now focus all his efforts on the baseball field.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. By the
He's
way,
made
yeah.
his ruling.
Speaking of votes, if you want to vote for any of these people, All-Star voting is still happening.
Yes, it is. All right. Oh, and oh, wait, no, that's not it for sports. We got
No,
to
it's
talk about
not.
one final championship
Yes.
before the start of football season. This is it. The last has been crowned. There's no more stopping us from reaching our glory of glorious football. Okay, let's talk about
Talk
the NBA
about
championship.
basketball already.
All right. The Indiana Pacers were gloriously,
Defeated.
unceremoniously taken away in game seven as Oklahoma City Thunder became your NBA champions. If it wasn't for Halliburton going down 10 minutes into the game, Pacers were, ironically, on pace to outplay, outscore, and outlast the Thunder in their home court in OKC. But as fate would have it, Halliburton's Achilles gave out with a serious up, rendering him unable to return. And while the game was technically still close at halftime by 1 point separation, the Oklahoma City Thunder came out in game seven and dominated with a 33 to 20 point differential in the third. And Pacers could not recover, meaning that for the first time in franchise history, the Thunder are your champions.
Yep.
Also, the first time in 25 years, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has become just the third player in NBA history to win the league MVP, the finals MVP, and the scoring title in the same season. Joining legends in their own right, which I hate that his name now is up next to that of Michael Jordan, who did accomplish this feat 4 times, give or say. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who did it one time, and the man who did it last time in the year 2000, who is currently commenting and hating on his game, Shaquille O'Neal. Yes, the Shaqtus himself did indeed have the scoring title at one point in his career.
It's true.
Fun note about this finals, about the OKC winning. It is the seventh straight year that a different NBA champion has won the league. The last time there was a repeat was the Golden State Warriors in the 2017-2018 seasons. They were the
Wow.
last back-to-back champions. Ever since then, turnstile, new person every year.
Yep.
So we'll see if OKC can repeat. But if they're anything like the Dallas Mavericks, they won't. This will be the one and done. As for the Pacers, if we'll see them return to the year, I don't know, because losing Halliburton and with the Achilles, he's going to be out for probably a full year. I don't see that. I don't see them returning to that type of play without him because he was their leader, their captain, their crutch, and losing him just felt like a big blow.
Yeah,
Well, you know what they say though. The next season begins as soon as the championship is handed over. The trophy is
that is
handed over.
that is what they say.
And that's none truer than the NBA, as literally a couple days after giving OKC their trophy, the NBA draft occurred. Yep, they don't stop there in the NBA because after this, they go to the Summer League, then the G League, and then right into the preseason, into the in-season tournament, into the midway point of the All-Star game, right into the postseason. And they just play basketball non-stop. So, speaking of the NBA draft, your 101 is none other than Flag Day himself, Cooper Flag. And that is Flag with two G's because he's double good. He got drafted at the 101 overall pick to the Dallas Mavericks as, the lottery not so rigged compensation for letting Luka go to the Lakers. That pick was followed by Dylan Harper going to the Spurs, VJ Edgecombe going to the 76ers, Con Newpel going to the Hornets, and the most basketball name that ever basketballed, Ace Bailey going to the Jazz.
Nice.
Although Cooper Flag is a really, really good sports name.
It is. It's really good. Although he should be playing flag football.
Yeah, but Cooper also sounds like a baseball name.
That's true. That's
And
true.
also, that's because of Cooper's town.
Yeah.
All right. That is it for sports.
Indeed.
So yeah, with this championship, this means that only thing running right now is baseball until training camp starts for the NFL in mid-July. But even
Sounds like,
then,
yeah.
we're
Sounds
gonna have the MLB All-Star game that week too.
sounds to me that this is actually the best time of the year. But you know, your mileage may
Yes, it's
vary.
the best time of the year to get into the AUSL.
USL, yes. Talons went on a tear last week, sweeping their series against the Volts. So congratulations to the Talons. If you want more softball action tonight, there is a special USA softball event. It is an all-star exhibition with all sorts of players that you might recognize from the recent College World Series or from the AUSL teams. That is tonight, the 26th of June. So if you're listening to this, it's too late. It's already happened.
Yep. But you can always catch the replays both on YouTube and
Exactly.
ESPN.
So check that out. The AUSL season will resume next week after this is done. So yeah, they took their own version of the All-Star break. It's just very small, just like the whole season is very small compared to the
Yes.
baseball season. Yeah. Anyway, now we can move on. That's it for sports. So we can move on to television news, and we start television news this week with a little update about the legal troubles of Trey Parker and Matt Stone, aka the creators of South Park. We've been reporting a long time at this point about their back and forth between Warner and Paramount, and it continues today. Trey Parker and Matt Stone accuse incoming Paramount president Jeff Shell, good name, of meddling in contract negotiations with Warner Brothers Discovery and Netflix. In a June 21st letter obtained by The Hollywood Reporter, Park County, the entertainment company run by Parker and Stone, threatened legal action for directing Netflix and Warner Brothers Discovery to modify certain terms of their offers, quote, in a manner calculated to benefit Paramount at the expense of the company. It pointed to incoming Redbird Capital executive Jeff Shell, urging WBD to give Paramount Plus an exclusive 12-month window for new episodes of the show and to shorten the term of the deal from 10 to 5 years, which could worsen the studio's bid for the series. There are 2 years remaining on Paramount's existing $900 million overall deal with South Park Digital Studios, with the company in talks to extend the agreement and bring the show to Paramount Plus. And when they say the show, they mean getting it off of Max, where it currently exists, and putting the whole thing on Paramount Plus.
Not just that, but also taking off of southparkdigitalstudios.com, where it is
Mm-hmm.
currently streaming as well, and securing it behind Paramount Plus and its paywall.
Yes.
And with the 12-month window for these new releases, that means they can't show on Comedy Central, its home for the past 20 years for a full year, meaning it would be a full season behind, give or take,
Mhm.
for those episodes to appear to most audiences if you don't have Paramount Plus. Uh, yeah, this was actually part of the reason why they made that deal with Max because of the Comedy Central, because $900 million to South Park Digital Studios was seen as the investment for it and that they could continue to show their shows. But now, parent companies coming in and meddling it up and
Yep.
trying to take their crown jewel back after deals have already been struck and made.
Right.
And yeah, that 10 years to 5 year deal is a huge time jump or
Yeah.
time reversal.
It's a big backing out, basically, without actually backing out. But yeah, it's a disaster. But like I said, when has this deal not been a disaster for them? This seems like they just went with the wrong company to start and then were and have regretted it ever since.
I mean, that's part of like having a broadcast company and
Hmm.
then being sold and then being sold again and then currently in
Yes.
the middle of being sold to Skydance.
Yeah. So good luck with that.
Yes, can't
Hey,
wait to see how Trey Parker and Matt Stone tell their side of the story
right.
in an episode later this year.
Yeah, make fun of this happening in their own show that they can just do whatever they want on.
Yes,
Anyway, we watched some television this week. Well, you probably watched more of it than I did, but yes, it is
guilty.
that time of year again. Get your forks ready. The Bear is back. Yes,
Yes,
the FX
chef.
pro yes, the FX program that has graced our top tens multiple times, or top fives, I guess we do here. And is a generally regarded as a media boat favorite, even though I think I liked season three a little bit more than you did.
Hmm.
Is back with its fourth proper season. It is all up streaming on Hulu right now if you are a Hulu person, or you can watch it weekly on FX if you want to be normal. But yeah, all of The Bear is up. Did you watch all of it already?
I got 8 episodes through,
So you're almost done.
almost done. I would have been done if it wasn't for another hour and a half long episode.
Yeah, I saw that episode seven is going to be the centerpiece episode this season, and it does go twice as long as normal. So,
Yes,
yes,
it
be
does.
aware of that. That being said, though, Hulu does not give you a single hint at what's going to happen in this season. Unlike last time, all of the descriptions are exactly the same, and none of the pictures give you any idea of what the episodes are about. And all the episode titles are just episode 1 through episode 10. They are not
Hmm.
tipping their hand at all. So if you want to play to be spoiler free here, one, stay off social media, and two, Hulu's got your back because they'll help you out with that. So yeah, I am trying to remain spoiler free. I have only watched the first episode. I already like where this is going, though, is where what I'll say. Um, I think that while season three was fascinating to me for a lot of reasons, as kind of a more of a character study, as kind of a mood piece, as less of a linear piece of storytelling and more of a general kind of like here's what's going on with these characters internally, and let's discover and explore these spaces within these characters. Season three seems like actually let's go back to season two. They're basically saying all that stuff did happen, but now we're going to continue the story that you want to hear updates on. Will they succeed? Like, will the restaurant be as big as they want it to be? Will they pull this out? Like, that's the story that I think a lot of people come to The Bear to really enjoy, which is why season three got mixed reviews. I think this will, at least from episode one, it seems like it's back on track to be the kind of show that I think a lot of people wanted it to be in the first place.
Ah, yes, that's only because you're one episode in.
Hmm. I mean, if I'm wrong, I will be happy to be wrong because, like I said, I really liked what they did in season two, in three, and I thought it was interesting that they were willing to try some interesting things with this show. And if this is another season of them trying interesting things, then I am down for that too. But I have to watch it and find out, I guess, which side that it falls on.
Well, from what I've seen, I think you'll be pleasantly happy with where this season goes. I've seen a couple of mixed reviews online saying that the bear has lost its flavor, and others saying that the bear is back in business,
Yeah,
depending on which side of the coin you fall on from season three.
I think
Like
so.
you mentioned,
Yeah.
with that first season, it does give the that seasoning from the first two seasons of a literal ticking clock because they do literally
Yes,
put a
they
ticking
do
clock out
literally
there,
do another ticking clock.
which I was happy to see come back. Uh, how often they flash back to it and how often they reference it, I will let you explore that on your own as
Yeah,
you go
we'll
through
see.
the rest of the season. It does feel like that was missing from season three of something bigger hanging over
Yeah,
because with season three, there was well, we gotta get this right. We gotta get this perfect. We don't know when a critic's coming. And then because it was such an unknown variable, you weren't really thinking about it. It literally hang over the head. Whereas here,
yeah,
it's a literal ticking clock of when the restaurant shuts down. And they
yeah,
flash to it several times throughout every episode, being like, hey, we have X amount of time left, X amount of time. And it just keeps going and going and going. So you do feel like that constant pressure cooker from those first two seasons of we have to be here by this deadline, otherwise we're fucked, and that is here. But you do
yeah,
still get a lot of those character moments, like you mentioned from season three, within here as well. Those
that's good.
character growths, those character interactions, those
Yeah,
blossoming friendships amongst
yeah.
everyone.
What I will say is I'm also interested to see what this does with kind of telling a meta story, which I think that season three was trying to do. Because just like the restaurant in the show was also trying to follow two of the most critically acclaimed television seasons in a long time. That's a very hard thing to do, and I think that's why I think season three was like what it was, which I think it itself is trying to think about what is greatness. Like it's really preoccupied as a show with what ultimately is the goal of the thing that we do every day. And even from the first episode, it seems like it's revisiting these themes. So I'm really curious to see how season four addresses kind of the show in the show. Like, be like I want to dive deeper into that idea of them being self-aware that they're writing a show that has a lot like high stakes, that has a lot writing on it to be this amazing perfect thing, and whether they're just actually no, we just want to make this whatever we want. And yeah, we'll see.
I mean, that's part of the like spoiler, not spoiler opening
Yeah,
of Carby falling asleep in front of
right.
Groundhog Day,
Yeah,
where you either feel like you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, like a normal kitchen, or do you crave that difference? You crave that
new thing.
experimental, which is what season three happened with the changing of the menu over and over and over and over.
Right.
That you crave that chaos, but is
Yeah.
that sustainable for anything? Not just a restaurant, just for anything. Do you
Yeah,
crave that chaos for
that
your own
is
life?
to a certain extent, yeah, that's life is trying to navigate whether or not that variety, yeah, that chaos is welcome, or if it's actually the enemy of progress, the enemy of feeling that you're actually doing something worthwhile. It's an interesting thing, and I think it's an interesting show, and I want it to continue to be interesting. Like, and I'm so happy that this is already divisive
Mhm.
because I would rather take the mixed reaction to the bear than a everybody's super thrilled about the bear any day, because I want to see this show do weird things. I want the biggest show in the world to be one of the weirdest shows in the world, and this is happening, and it's very exciting that it's still happening. All right. But yeah, we'll revisit it
Yeah,
once I finish up the season. When you finish up the season, we have
I'll
more to
finish it
talk
up well
about.
before you do, but we'll
Well,
see
we'll
how far you
see.
get within a week.
I don't know. Christy did mention that she actually wants to go a little faster because she is getting spoiled on social media. So we
Yes.
might not wait a whole week. We might do episode 2 tonight. We'll see.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
then 3 and 4 on Saturday, and then 5 and 6 on Sunday.
Hey,
And
don't get
then
ahead of yourself. We'll see.
7 is just its own long episode.
We'll see. All right. Let's move on then. Unless you have other television to talk about.
Mm, yes. As of this recording, well, as of recording now, because you're probably listening to this in the future, Squid Game final season will be officially out.
Yeah,
We will talk about that next week. I do plan on watching the whole thing. I do plan on finishing it. I know I didn't really talk about season two because it was split up into two parts. So we'll see how they end season three, and where they plan to go from there. Spoilers, they've already talked about having an Americanized version of Squid Game show. So
sure.
I'm sure offshoot spin-offs, they're not going to let Squid Game die. Just like I'm sure they're not going to let the main character die.
Yeah, probably not.
But that's next week's issue.
We'll talk about that next week. But in the meantime, let's move on and talk about some cancellations and renewals.
What am I no longer watching?
No cancellations this week, just some renewals for you. We have Mobland getting a second season on Paramount Plus. Outlander, Blood of My Blood gets a second season on Stars, which is still a
Yep.
going concern, apparently.
Mhm.
Bet gets a second season on Netflix. Ransom Canyon also gets a second season on Netflix.
That Bet on Netflix is based off of an anime of the same, not of the same name. It's actually its own anime name. But they call it Bet because it's a school about gambling and like bets and probability.
Ah, got it.
Uh, I didn't like the trailers that I saw for it. I didn't like the trailers I saw for the anime. I'm probably not going to watch this, but
Probably
looking at the
not.
live action, you can just tell based on all the characters, like everyone, how everyone's dressed and hairstyles and interact. You can tell it is very much a live action anime, even before knowing that it's an anime itself.
All right. Yeah, I probably will skip this as well. Let's move on to some deaths. We have a couple of deaths this week. First up, Mick Ralphs, age 81. A Hall of Fame rock guitarist, was a member of Mott the Hoople and mostly known for Bad Company. Songwriter responsible for Feel Like Making Love. You know,
Yep, that song where you feel like making love.
or at least he does. I don't know. I don't know if I do when I hear it. It actually really has the opposite effect on me, but your mileage may vary. Um, and then we also have Lynn Hamilton, age 95, actress in Sanford and Son and The Waltons.
Yes,
Yeah,
classic TV actress from some classic
yep,
TV shows.
95. Wow.
Yeah.
All right, now let's get this over with. Let's get to the part where I
Yeah.
have to hang my head in shame, the movie
Uh,
section. And we
yes, but
always
I did
start
lead
the,
you down this road, so you can
yeah,
blame
well,
me.
this happens.
Ah,
I overcorrected, is what I will say, on the weekend box office numbers, which is what we're talking about next, because your number one movie was not Elio, which I guess means that. Oh wait, this technically means we both lose?
yeah, we both take the L here.
Okay, yeah, because we chose the wrong movie for number one. So okay, good. This means that at least you don't get a point on me this week. But
No,
if Elio had been number one, you would have won. But your number one movie instead of Elio was How to Train Your Dragon for a second week, with $37 million this week. That's at 160 already domestic. That's going to be a hit. Number two, 28 years later, debuted to $30 million. Yes, that means that it did outdo Elio, which was at number three this week, only with a $20 million debut. $20 million as a refresher. We had the over-under at 70.
Yeah, just a refresher, How to Train Your Dragon was up at 80 when it
Yeah,
came out.
right.
This $20 million for Pixar is its lowest opening weekend
Yeah,
ever.
ever.
Not counting the re-releases for like
Right.
Soul and
Yeah,
Turning Red and
ever.
Luca.
Ever.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it in a second. But let's finish up the rest of the top five here. Number four, Lilo and Stitch, $9.7 million. That's at 386 million. I saw a headline that it is officially past what oh, we're gonna talk about that later. Never mind.
Yep.
Uh thank you for highlighting that. And then rounding out top five, Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, another $6.5 million. That's at 178. So yes, you said pre-podcast that you had a theory which I think I agree with, about why Elio didn't work in comparison to Lilo and Stitch.
And that is nostalgia bait.
Yeah.
People don't, as much as we here at the New York Podcast love to champion original release, love to champion original ideas, love to be the champions of go out and see these creative and unique stories, because otherwise we're going to end up with where we were in 2017 and 2018 and 2019 pre-pandemic of IP sequel, IP sequel, IP sequel,
Hmm.
IP sequel, peak sequel, prequels, and reboots and remakes.
Yep.
Well, lo and behold, money talks, and it's not speaking up for Elio. It's speaking up for
Yeah.
live action, How to Train Your
Mm.
Dragon. It's speaking up for sequel 28 years later. It's speaking up for remake, live action remake, Lilo and Stitch. It's speaking up for sequel, Mission Impossible,
Yeah.
178, 386, 160 million. Even 28 years later, topping over
Mm.
Elio in the same opening weekend.
I will say another theory that I've seen popping around about this is also about the like it being a science fiction story. Science fiction stories typically struggle, especially animated ones. Just look at Disney's own what was it called? Strange Worlds?
Yes, Strange World.
Yeah, which had a similar kind of trajectory when it bombed in its first weekend.
Mhm.
It's just that for some reason, kids aren't as interested in these stories. And I think the Lilo and Stitch being the exception is because what you mentioned, it's the nostalgia factor. It's these millennial parents taking their kids to see a reboot of the movie that they loved when they were kids. You don't have that with original stories. You're just never going to have that cachet. You're going to have to go in basically with blind faith. And let's be real, people don't have the blind faith in Pixar that they did even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Like they do not have that kind of cultural push anymore. Disney needs to realize sooner than later that you cannot just market something with from Pixar anymore and have it be an instant success. That sucks to say. I wish it wasn't like that. You had a time where you could put out Wally, you could put out Up, and you could just say from the makers of Toy Story in the trailer, and people would go see it in droves. You just can't do that anymore.
I know what you're saying. What about the first Inside Out? What about Coco? Two films that
Keep in
we talk
mind
about here.
what I said 10 years ago. The first Inside Out came out 10 years ago.
Yes. But that has also helped building up on good word of mouth that kept people coming in. Coco,
Right?
same thing. Good word of mouth, good
Yeah.
songs, kept people
Yeah.
coming in.
The word of mouth
Here,
just wasn't here for
here a good word of mouth.
Elio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just makes you wonder like what it's hard, right? Because you've got the story that we reported on earlier last year where we talked about like even internally Pixar is having kind of grappling with this pull towards more sequels and the pull towards actually doing original content like they've always done. And yeah, if Toy Story 5 ends up being the hit that they need, it's just going to be more reinforcement in the Disney machine that sequels are the only thing that brings audiences in. And it's going to be sad.
I mean, they are working on other sequels besides, well, like I said, Toy Story 5, but
Yeah.
Incredibles 3 is also in development as well. Not with Brad Bird, though. Keep that
No.
in mind.
Yeah.
But a sequel, nonetheless.
Yeah, ultimately we'll have to see what happens with Pixar going forward, but this is going to be a huge blemish on their record, and I hope they recover.
Well, I don't know what's a huger blemish, Elio or the good dinosaur.
You know what? At least a good dinosaur made more money than this. You have to
Oh,
give them that. As for the quality of the movie, I have not seen Elio yet, so I keep wanting to call it Emilio for some reason. Feel like it needs an M in there. But yeah, no.
because the Mighty Ducks guy.
Yeah, Emilio Estevez. I would pay to see a Pixar movie about and starring Emilio Estevez. Anyway,
Anyways,
the villain of that story is his brother Charlie Sheen. Anyways,
always.
always. Let's move on. We have upcoming releases to talk about. Two bangers this week. One for the dads and one for everybody else. Dad movie of the week, of course, is Brad Pitt the movie. I mean, F1 the movie starring Brad Pitt. I saw a great post that somebody was pointing out that if you didn't understand that that was the F1 logo, it looks like it's Brad Pitt the movie.
Yes.
And now I just keep thinking of it as Brad Pitt the movie. But yes, F1 the movie starring Brad Pitt. This is a dad movie. Go take your dads. And then
But
we
Father's
also
Day
have
already passed.
right.
I know. Missed that
Well,
opportunity.
belated, right? Belated F1 the movie. And then we also have the one that Christy and I are looking forward to. It's time for Megan. She is back in Megan 2.0, the sequel to, of course, the horror movie Megan, in which that robot girl came to life and started doing, murder things.
Yes, M3gan.
Yes, Intrigan, as Christy calls it as well. But yes, 2.0 has her facing off a rival robot. And who doesn't want to see a good old-fashioned robot fight? So yes, I'm looking forward
Wait,
to this
are
one.
they pulling a Terminator where the villain is now the good guy
Well, I don't know how
against
good Megan
another?
is, but there's definitely a moment in the trailer where the Allison Williams character literally says, "We need help. We need Megan." So yes, it is a little bit that. It's a little bit we need the villain from the first movie to come back and fight the new villain. It's a little
Yes.
Godzilla in that way. But yeah, I'm way into that as a concept. I'm way into Megan. I'm excited for Megan 2.0. But now the hard part. The hell do we do about number one? Because do you think either now that we know how strong How to Train Your Dragon is, do you think either of these movies is strong enough? Because I'm pretty sure at least one of these will be your number one, but I honestly don't know which one.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
let's make it easy. I'll take the dad movie and you take
Okay.
the robot movie.
You know what? I'll take Megan. I'll take Megan because Megan could have a The Substance style effect here, where like it surprises everyone with how well it does. I could easily see a big upset here of robots versus dads.
Oh, really? I'll play with the upset of dads over robots
Hey,
because, as we
who
just
knows?
talked about, M3 is a sequel, so it has a
Yes,
built-in audience,
it
and
does. Yes,
that first movie made a lot of money
yes,
off a tiny
yes,
budget.
yes. You're right. That first movie did well, and then since then, probably there's a lot of people who are excited about it, about the sequel because they watched it later in streaming. And
Yes,
so, yeah, you're probably onto something there. But at the same time, Brad Pitt is Brad Pitt, and there are a lot of dads, and there's a lot of people who like F1. So you're not. I don't think you're technically wrong to pick F1. There's a chance here.
I think we'll be split here. M3 will get the domestic, but F1 will get the global.
Hmm. Yeah, I do see that being a very easy global hit just because of the global popularity of F1 as a sport.
Yes,
Especially in the areas that they want this movie to make money. It will make money. So yeah,
yes, but
Megan harder sell turns out.
yes, but I'm putting all my chips over here on sports dad of the movie F1.
Fair enough.
Come on, Brad Pitt, lap that robot.
Not that robot. We'll see. We'll find out next week. In the meantime, we have some news to report, some bits coming out of the movies seen this week. Because yeah, a lot
Whoa,
of
hold on.
wait,
We're
what?
forgetting about a movie.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we are.
That's the second.
Yeah, comes out before we podcast on the third.
Oh, whatever. All right, fine. It's getting an early release because of the July 4th weekend, the holiday
Yes.
weekend, so I was gonna wait. But yes, Jurassic World Rebirth. will eventually be your number one movie. It just won't be this weekend because it won't be out. It will be next weekend. So yeah, we'll re-mention it next week as well. But yes, I guess technically you can see Jurassic World before the next time
Before
we record.
before we podcast
Well,
again.
actually, we need to talk about that
Oh
because
yeah,
it
we
won't be on Thursday. So we'll have to figure out what day that will be.
yes.
All right. Anyway, now we can move on to some bits. A lot of small movie stories broke this week, a lot of very exciting ones. So let's talk about all of them. First up, probably the most exciting for you, is the announcement that the next James Bond film, the first under the new Amazon ownership, will be directed by none other than Mr. Dune himself, Denis.
And you're not going to try to pronounce the last name.
No, I never do. I just call him Denis.
Yes,
Our man Denis,
Villeneuve.
yes, will be the man directing the next James Bond, and I think this is an excellent choice. I think
Oh
this is
yes,
such a brilliant like galaxy brain move. Like it doesn't matter that he makes these big sci-fi epics because you know he can pull off this smaller kind of vibe and do it with panache. So I'm excited to see what he does.
yes. This does mean, however, the last original movie he did was Arrival,
Mhm.
which was after he did Blade Runner
Yeah,
2049. But then he's been in Dune, Dune Part 2,
right.
and then
Now
this
James
upcoming
Bond.
year, he'll be no, he'll
Oh,
be shooting Dune Messiah
right.
before he gets to James Bond. Um, he will not be writing the script, unlike the Dune series, which means they do have to bring in someone else to write whatever this film will be. No word on who that is yet,
Yep.
but at least they have a director saying, "Hey, I am here, and I'm not Christopher Nolan."
Right. This, yeah, exactly. I'm not Christopher Nolan, and here's my vision. Yes, yeah, we'll eventually learn a writer, we'll eventually learn a James Bond, because by the way, we still don't know who that is going to be.
Yes,
So yeah, a lot to still learn, but we have the baselines of something at least interesting.
I
So
mean, yeah, we don't know who's going to be in front of the camera. We don't know the words he's going to be saying and who's going to
right,
be telling them,
no
but
idea.
we know how it's going to look, and that's amazing.
And yeah, you're very excited about that.
Yes, I am.
Uh, Meanwhile, another exciting, potentially exciting, but also confusing and also okay, sure, announcement was from none other than the pen of Aaron Sorkin, who is set to write and direct The Social Network Part 2. So, in case you're wondering, this is not going to be a direct sequel to The Social Network. No word on whether any of those actors will reprise their roles, so don't bank on Jesse Eisenberg returning. But it will be inspired by the Wall Street Journal piece called The Facebook Files, as well as kind of the general kind of vibe of Facebook as a company after the events of the original film. There's a lot they could mine here. There's a lot of interesting things that have happened to Facebook over the years between people running it and um, legal challenges and the pivot to video debacle. There's a lot to go. Like, there's a lot that Aaron Sorkin could dig into here. Then again, the Aaron Sorkin of 2025, 26 is not necessarily the Aaron Sorkin of 2010. So I'm a little less excited about where this could potentially go. But the fact that he's going back to the well again is at least interesting and could potentially be an interesting film. You just got to pair him up with a director that understands it because the reason why The Social Network 1 worked was not just because of the script, it was because of David Fincher. Like, so you have to get a director that knows what they're doing here. And so fingers crossed that this ends up not being a disaster.
I mean, yes, the social network, despite how well it still looks,
Yeah,
came out
this
15 years ago.
that movie has not aged a single year. We just watched it like a few months ago again, and I'm like, man, this thing still rules. This is such a
Mhm.
good movie. Say what you will about what ends up happening to Facebook and whether or not that Mark Zuckerberg should have been painted in even a little bit of a light, like positive light, like he was sort of in the film. But yeah, it's still a great movie. I just hope that this takes some of that DNA and translates it, but I don't know.
I mean, it was painted a good light because it was based off a book, The Accidental Billionaires,
Right.
about the founding of Facebook. And that's what it was, the founding of Facebook. The Facebook Files, however, from the Wall Street Journal, is not painting it in such a rosy colored tinted
No.
glasses light.
This is going to be a real rough story, kind of no matter how they paint it. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do.
Yes, this will also be Aaron Sorkin's first time writing and directing since Molly's Game of 20, is that 19 or 18?
Wait, hold on. Wait, he's directing this too?
He's directing it, yeah.
I
Full write
missed
and
this.
direct.
So all that, never mind about all that stuff about matching with the director, because I totally didn't realize that he's directing this himself. Now I'm worried.
Well, see, I thought you were saying that because he doesn't have a competent director. Okay, that's not to say Aaron Sorkin
Ah,
is not a competent director.
I don't know.
An
I think you could say that.
experienced director.
Yeah, experienced is maybe the word. I don't know. My trust in this project is pretty low at the moment, I will say. All right.
That's okay. We'll walk and talk about it later.
Exactly. Let's move on to, in case you've been wondering what's been going on with Steven Spielberg, have I got news for you? Actually, I don't, because all we know about his new film is that it does not have a name. Blank. That's all we know. And it is going to be a screenplay by David Koepp, who also wrote Jurassic Park and War of the Worlds. Their
Not
next
not
project.
going to. Not going to. It happened. Past
What?
tense.
What? Oh, he wrapped filming on it. Okay, well,
Yes.
the film's not out yet, so it doesn't
Well,
exist to us yet.
no, but they've stopped principal photography. It's done.
Whatever. You know what I mean. If a
I know.
movie's not out, it doesn't exist. Anyway, yes, he wrapped filming on this project. So yeah, their project will be an untitled sci-fi themed film, but otherwise, that's all we know. It is shrouded in mystery.
Yeah. Unknown what this thing is, unknown who's even acting in it. I mean, I'm sure we can find something that's acting it, but it's wrapped. It's done. It's going to be something. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this was
Something.
CG, just green screen, and be like,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll figure it out later. Or
right,
I have
maybe.
it in my head, we'll put it on the page or on the
Guess we'll
screen.
find out. All right. Next up, speaking of wonder what happened to that franchise, Meet the Parents is back with Meet the Parents 4, which will be set for a November 25th, 2026. Yes, that's a Thanksgiving release, folks. And being written and directed by John Hamburg, who co-wrote all three previous films. So at least you have some returning talent coming to this sequel. But otherwise, what are we doing here? Why do we need four of these things?
Well, again, this is another writer director here with
Hmm.
John Hamburg. And first one, Meet the Parents, 2000.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Even Meet the Fockers, which was the sequel, 2004. And then not another Meet the Parents, but no, the third film was Little Fockers.
Hmm.
And that was 10 years after that second movie in 2013. So who knows how far we're going to get out here. I mean, I assume they're going to, of course, age everyone up, which would then put the kids at roughly going to college
Something like that, yeah. Or out of college, actually.
or out of college. And
Yeah,
hey, maybe that's the wedding. And now, yes,
maybe.
Ben Stiller is now the father of the bride. Which,
No,
they could
that's
just call this stuff
yeah.
Father of the Bride. But
Yeah,
then
no,
they
that's
get
something
started with Stephen Martin.
that's something else. That's something else
Yes.
completely. Anyway. So
But
yeah,
hey,
I don't know.
they also
Someone
had
out
four
there,
films of Father of the Bride, right?
probably. I believe that. But yeah, anyway, someone I'm sure somewhere is very excited about this, but definitely not me.
Owen Wilson,
Uh
because he's going to be in
yes.
it for
Right,
some
probably.
reason.
Good for Owen Wilson. And then last but not least, we have a little update about the worldwide total for Lilo and Stitch, and it's a big one, folks. Disney is almost has almost another $1 billion movie on their hands because Lilo and Stitch is already at $910 million, and it's still in theaters, folks. That thing's gonna hit a billion, easy.
Well, good thing because they announced a sequel today on Stitch Day. Bring it right back
Yes.
around to the start of the
Yep. Full
podcast.
circle. I mean, I'm not surprised. This, again, this is not for me, but I'm glad that the people liked it enough to see it in droves, and I'm glad somebody out there will be excited for a sequel to it.
Now, which one do they go with? Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch has a glitch, Leroy and Stitch, Or based off Stitch the series with all the cousins? Huh?
None of
Huh?
the
Huh?
above. This will be an original story.
Just
My
like
guess. They're gonna
Mufasa,
Mufasa it. Yeah, that's my guess. Is they're gonna Mufasa it. This
they're
will
gonna
be based
prequel
on
it about
nothing.
how Stitch was created.
You know what? I 100% believe that. I think that's probably what they do.
It's gonna be told a la Thor: Love and Thunder, where
Hmm.
it's Jamba telling Lilo how Stitch was created as a bedtime story, and it's just, hey, it doesn't need to make sense because it's for a kid, and that's how they'll get away with all of it.
It's very possible. Let me tell you, it's very, very possible. All right.
Disney, I just made your second $1 billion movie. Pay me my money.
Well,
All
yeah, your
right,
check is in the mail, I'm sure.
I'm
All right.
sure.
Let's move on. That is it for movie bits. Did we watch any movies this week?
Uh, I was so close to watching Dog Man on Peacock.
Just out of curiosity.
Strictly out of curiosity, yes.
Yeah.
But then I watched Destination X instead, which I didn't talk about in
Destination
TV
X.
for a good reason. Yes.
Okay, good. No, let's not talk about it.
Well, one, it's not over, but two,
Yeah.
it's The Amazing Race without The Amazing Race plus Geocacher, or sorry, GeoGuessr.
Oh, okay, weird.
Yeah, so I watched that instead. But it's like tip of my tongue was like, ooh, I'm always so close to watching Dogman just strictly out of curiosity, and then just nope, something else always catches my eye,
I
like
mean, that's fair.
finishing Poker Face, which will be today. I didn't get to it because it's not out
Ah,
yet, but Poker Face will end today, and we'll talk about that next week.
yeah.
At least I
Hopefully
assume it's
I'll
ending today. This is episode 10.
probably. But yeah, I'll probably hopefully catch up with that as well sometime
Yep.
this week. We'll see. All right. That's it. Then thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Media Vote podcast. That will wrap it up for this episode. We'll be back next week for another episode, though. We'll have all sorts of new news and thoughts for you then. So tune in if you want to watch us in video form. We're on YouTube. Search YouTube for Media Boat Podcast. If you want to listen to us in your ears, you can go to podcast services all over the place and search Media Boat Podcast to find our show. You can also find us on the web, social media. We're on Blue Sky. Just search Media Boat Podcast on there. You can find us on www.mediaboatpodcast.com, where there's an archive of our older shows. You can also find us on twitch.tv/mediaboat, where Mike occasionally plays video games. And last but not least, you can email us if you have questions, comments, feedback about the show, or anything you need us to know. We will read those emails on the show. So send them on in. All right, that'll do it. Have a great week. We'll be back for a special 4th of July week episode next week. But in the meantime, we'll see you.
Yep. We'll be back with more news, more thoughts, and more of us. Okay, bye.